Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, PAM's aim for these 4 webinar series, this is the third of the 4, so there will be another package after this, is to highlight and appraise the role of architects by using design in the context of built environment and especially the urban areas to solve matters in question at that particular moment of time. It is with great honor for me to have Architect Nur Zakia Arshad, the chairperson for Housing and Urban Wellbeing, to give her welcoming remarks. To you, Architect Nur Zakia.
Thank you, Moderator, Architect Mustapha Kamal Zulkarnain. Welcome to all to this episode 3 of City Talk KATA KOTA. I would like to welcome all the attendees, the participants for today's talk, and also to the panelists, our distinguished panelists, our inspiring panelists for today. And we are very lucky. This is our third City Talk, episode 3. And from one episode to another, I find that there are a lot of new ideas and inspiring notes from many panelists that we have invited. Today, we are very lucky to have Architect Dr. Asrul Mahjuddin Ressang Aminuddin from University of Malaya. He is biodata, as you already knew, and as presented by Architect Mustadi. And the second panel speaker is Architect Mazlin Ghazali, principal of Mazlin M. Ghazali Architect. Sorry. And the third one, we have a special attendance today, Pengarah of Majlis Perbandaran Hang Tuah Jaya Melaka, Architect Muhammad Fildaus Abdul Halim. And he has very nice ideas that I've gone through and I've heard of it, and I would like all of you to sit back and listen during this Saturday morning, and let us all sit back and listen to the talk that is going to be presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Architect Nur Zakia. Okay, now we'll proceed with the paper presentation by the invited speakers. Before we go on, just to inform all participants, please post your questions on the Q&A bar at the bottom of your screen so that we can track of your question and answer. And on the FB Live, just put a remark on your the bar, where your face appears, so we can also take note of your FB Live questions. So let us begin with the first presenter, Dr. Asrul Mahjuddin Ressang Aminuddin. Dr. Asrul, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Architect Mus, Architect Nur Zakia, for having us. A fantastic PAM online series. Yeah, and thank you again with PAM. And good morning to everyone. Good morning to my fellow colleagues. Yeah, so I will share my slides now. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah. So remember Hamlet Act 3. So this is PAM Series 3. Hamlet Act 3 is to be or not to be. So now mine is to house or not to house. So we have problems, we have issues, we have solutions, we have ideas, next ideas, what the next ideas. So a lot of people claim a lot of ideas and solutions. So there you are, that's me, Asrul Mahjuddin Ressang from Department of Architecture, and together with UMCAS, very caring part of the research group, collaborating with us. And most of the time we did research not very far away from it's almost the center of KL. Yeah, so you know slum in a way that it's always horizontal. One of the oldest slum is favela in South America. It's always like, whether is it possible to have slum in a vertical form or not? So, so my thought will go around within that idea of whether it's suitable or not suitable to house people in a vertical form. And throughout the centuries, especially after the Second World War, people say, I have a fantastic idea. I have a great idea. So we start building houses, we start building accommodation, and the biggest showcase is by Minoru Yamasaki, American-born Japanese architect. They did this pretty ego in not far away, I think, from Missouri, USA. And this is supposed to be the best way gonna answer to housing needs for the many, especially for the urban poor or the economically declined people. But unfortunately, after a couple of years, after a decade, it had to be brought down. So it is a symbol of failure. Mind you, it's the same architect that actually built Twin Tower. So Project Ego was demolished by the government. The Twin Tower is demolished by somebody else. Yeah. So the architect is known for the wrong reason, unfortunately. So what happened early years? Early years in Malaysia, do we have high-rise? Yes, we have high-rise. So the next high-rise that we built was actually not very far. Currently, Sogo now in Jalan Tuah. It was mooted by the first Prime Minister. Actually, it's not so much about doing the housing in the city, but it's more for the political ideas that, you know, we are the rising nation, so we need to have an high-rise apartment. So, but then obviously the high-rise is no longer there. And obviously, if you talk to politics, this some of the points, politics to powering the house and get the votes. Yeah, and once in a while, there's always an idea that, you know, a kampung life in the city, but in real life, this is, I took this picture not far away from KLCC, Kampung Baru. The background is, you know, very modern city. That the front part is becoming a derelict. So the government say, we give you a dream, give you a home, and they built high-rise houses. Some of you may be a lot younger than that. We have a clearing flat, we have a lot-use flat, and etc., etc. So I thought this is going to be the pathway for the urban living. But unfortunately, something drastic happened. You know, oh my God, you know, is this the way it had to be done? What is that? Highland Towers, 11 December 1993. So there's a lot of conspiracy of this, and is that the best way we're going to do? So they say that the tower is quite vulnerable. Let's find somebody to blame. You know, let's say that, oh, maybe the authority, maybe the concern, hey, maybe the architect doesn't have give enough ideas. Yeah, and my story began. So I did a lot of qualitative research. Quantitative is basically a lot of data in the form of numbers. Qualitative is in the form of words. So what do we have? Remember Project Ego? Remember that it is actually a symbolize of urban failure. Don't you not see the same somewhere? So when we did the research, some say that, hey, you know, it's a pigeonhole living, multi-decker living. Little boy alone wondering, are you poor or not poor, little boy? Where's your family? They're actually rich people. Some people own luxury cars. One unit sometimes has 2-3 units. And they are not ordinary people. They're not poor people. These are statements that come from the authorities, and some come from the politicians, some come from the owners. So we gather that, yeah, in our data. You see, so many Astro days. Maybe it's true. I just wonder how many of you has Astro days. So we did some statistic, 1.4 to 1.52 car ratio per unit. That means every 10 units, they have about 1.5 cars. So 15 cars belong to 10 units. Or maybe they're right. So here a statement, grilling the grill. Why don't provide places for us to dry clothes? So are they blaming the authority or are they blaming the architect? We have kids, 3 to 4. We need to dry clothes. I can beautify my houses. And then one neighbor start building it. My neighbor do so, I can do the grill. One neighbor say, hey, grill is so that no one can jump, so no one can commit suicide. Is that true? And then there are also trees on the wall. You know, the joke is that, hey, I have landscape on the upper floor. Majlis tak buat apa-apa pun, so biarlah the trees there. So we have also dark and corridors. Mind you, when we did statistical, we did also statistical, quantitative. 5.4 to 5.6 people a unit. What does 0.4, 0.6 mean? After going through, it's actually, are we going towards parental home, boomerang generation? Are we ready for this, or are we just going to lay back and then it will happen, and then we have another crisis? And then while going along the corridor, we saw a motorbike. Abang, why you park this motorbike? No security lah, so I park. Kalau kereta I boleh naik, I bagi naik lah kereta. So one politician, one economist say our economy is car-centric industry, but are you sure? But it's only 4 to 5% of GDP. But our car ownership is very, very high. Only second after Brunei. But well, Brunei, you take out the Sultan, then they would be a lot lower. And as you go along, there's a personalized and beautify spaces. Not so bad. My neighbor, okay lah. We always talk, up corridor, live area. So there are spaces in which social gathering can happen, and then there are areas in which, I kenal my neighbor, I know my neighbor, so I'm not worried about that. And then we have kids. I can study here with my friends, so they modify part of the corridor, do the homework. This kid just finished the homework, getting ready to go to school. And then one family says, a corridor my play area for my kids, ground level tak ada security lah. Well, maybe that's true. Once in a while we hear kidnapping. If it is in the news, if it is not in the news, it's somewhere in the statistic. And then as we walk along, gangsterism. We talk to the community leaders. Hey, kenapa tak paint? Why don't you paint over and erase? You know why not? This is the marker for the gangsters. One block controlled by a certain gang. What they do? They push lah. They push what? They push things lah. Drugs, yeah. And vandalism and community also kind of issue. The other day, there's one hammer, being thrown down. If you're lucky, only Pampers and woman pad lah. There's always projectile coming in towards the ground level. And well, is it all that bad? Actually, not that bad at all. So, what's the real issue? Yeah, after going through a lot of this qualitative data, from the audio, from the transcript, etc., is bogged down is that they don't feel secure. Yeah, once they don't feel secure, it goes to other part of their psychology. They does not feel belonging into that unit, and they start to react negatively. So there's maybe some ideas. So that's why there's just keep on going. So I hope one day we can work out with designers and planners. And statistically, this is not very far away from MCU. Yeah, and you should look at the number of depression, very high for the low-cost housing. So people say, yalah, dia duduk dekat low-cost housing, so they're depressed lah. But people in condominium also not far away from the statistics, from the numbers of depression. A lot of women are depressed, but unfortunately, it's the guys who wanted to commit suicide. Yeah, and the other hand is that the number of youngsters feel depressed is very, very high, especially in multi-tiered housing. It's so unfortunate. Well, nevertheless, remember the image when people in the kampung want to go to the bandar, to the city, and then once in the city, then maybe they were thinking, oh gosh, I think I miss my kampung. Maybe go back to kampung and commute to bandar, maybe the best option. So this is cartoon taken not far from for a couple of years ago. So I think that's just about that. If I get rushy, try to put up within the 10 minutes. Thank you once again for having me for the 10 minutes. But once again, I hope with this snapshot of the qualitative research and the findings, we hope that there's something that we can work out and provide information. Thank you.
Now we would like to continue with the next presenter, Architect Mazlin Ghazali from M. Ghazali Architects. Please welcome Architect Mazlin Ghazali.
Thank you, Architect Mohd, for your introduction and your effort in making this talk possible. I believe architects can use design to solve the problems of affordable housing. In this talk, I will offer one potential example. To make houses more affordable, architects must solve problems that relate not only to cost, but also to quality. Land is a major cost. The more units you can build on a piece of land, the cheaper the cost for each house. So semi-detached houses are cheaper than bungalows, terrace houses cheaper than semi-detached houses, and 16-feet frontage houses cheaper than terrace houses with 24 feet frontages. But of course, the quality of the typical 16 feet frontage house leaves much to be desired. Mainly it's to do with providing each room in the house with a window for natural light and ventilation. And there's just not enough wall in the front and the back of each terrace house to fit in the required number of rooms. The specific problem that I want to help solve is, given a narrow frontage, how to maximize the number of rooms that have a view and that each has a window. If we are able to do that, then we can have more units on each acre and help reduce land cost. But let us talk first about quality and about the quality of an old building type, the single-story terrace house, and what I call the problem of the middle room. All right. So the middle room does not have a wall on the external line of the building. We can see this problem in this typical 24 feet frontage single terrace. This frontage presupposes a two-bay design where the front elevation is taken up by the living room and bedroom, and the rear elevation by a kitchen and another bedroom. In such a two-bay design, the middle area is then taken up by at least the dining room and the third bedroom. And how do you get windows? How do you get light to this middle bedroom? So one solution, provide an air well. Okay, common in the 1960s, 1970s, but of course it takes up valuable land space, providing a high level window. Again, yes, it solves the technical problems of light and ventilation, natural light and ventilation, but it does not afford any views out for the occupants, making the middle room less attractive. And the third, provide a recess in the third bedroom, for the third bedroom. And again, you have that recess taking up very valuable land space. So what is the solution? I propose that you stagger the party wall between a pair of terrace houses. The stagger allows one pair of the 24 feet frontage house to be divided into two bays in the front and three bays at the rear. Okay? And as you can see, all the bedrooms can have windows along the external line of the wall, either at the front or the rear. All rooms, including the kitchen and one of the bathrooms facing the laundry area, the void at the laundry area. So the problem of the natural light and ventilation and a view for the middle bedroom has been overcome. All right. Let's look at another building type. I was talking just now about the 16 feet frontage double-story house, and basically it's very difficult to put in 3 bedrooms into such a house. All right, you can, but it's a tough, because in such a narrow frontage layout, if you divide the frontage, the second and third bedrooms must be narrow. They can only be about 8 feet wide. So, but what if we put a stagger in the wall, in the party wall? All right. This is an example where we have this is a strata title example. Okay. But as you can see, you can have a second and third bedroom, which can be about 9 or 10 feet wide, and the master bedroom, which can be in the front or the back, to be 13 feet wide. And this is a landed property solution. You see the party wall is on the property boundary. Okay. All right, let's now go on to another building type, and that is semi-detached houses. Now, in this proposal, what I would like to challenge here is that can you have a 25 feet frontage semi-detached house? Is it possible at all with a 10 feet setback, only 15 feet frontage? Yes, if we put a stagger in the party wall between a pair of those houses. Okay. Let's see if you can see this. All right. So what you have here is, this is a landed property solution. You have 2 bays at the back and 1 bay in the front, or vice versa, so that your rooms can be decent rooms. Okay. Now let's look at yet another house type, which is the 2-story terrace townhouse. Now, if you have ever designed a two-story terrace townhouse, typically 24 feet frontage, you know that you have the same problem as the single-story terrace house. You have the problem of the middle bedroom. All right. So here, typically, what people do is they have to put in an air well, and an air well has to be by law 7 square meters, about 70 square feet, 8 by 9 nominally, but I think even more than that. Okay, but it's not really a good layout. It's too crowded. All right. So can we solve that? Yes, I think we can. A 20-foot frontage terrace townhouse here you have. It is actually, if you remember, this is similar to the single-story terrace house, where we can put in 3 bays at the back, 2 bays in the front. The 2 bays in the front comprising living room and a master bedroom, and 3 bays at the back, 2 bedrooms, and 1 bay shared between a laundry area and a bathroom area. And that laundry area can provide borrowed lighting to the kitchen and to the bathroom inside. So you know, it's I think a reasonable solution and overcomes the problem of the terrace townhouse that I brought up before. So it's a short talk, but I think the solution, I think, is very simple. But a lot of people ask me, will the authorities approve it? And my response is, why not? So if the authorities don't approve it, I think that's an answer for us to maybe discuss beforehand. And maybe this is also a good time to present the third speaker, who's from Majlis Perbandaran, Tuah Jaya. Okay, Arkitek Mus?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Arkitek Mazlin. That was inspiring for you to offer the landed solutions. I hope later you will also during the Q&A offer the stratified solution, and I think that will be much more interesting. So without further ado, I think we go to the next presenter, our special speaker from Majlis. We met at the Majlis Perbandaran Tuah Jaya because we were doing our visit as part of our housing and urban well-being that we go to every of our 140 odd local authorities. So with the next presenter, Tuan Mohd Fildaus bin Abdul Halim, pengarah di Jabatan Kawalan Bangunan Majlis Perbandaran Tuah Jaya. So welcome Tuan Mohd Fildaus. So can you share your screen? Thanks.
Salam. Okey, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Terima kasih kepada Tuan Moderator, Arkitek Mustapha, Arkitek Nur Zakiyah, para panel, pasukan urus setia di belakang tabir dan juga para peserta. So, tanpa melengahkan masa, kita akan terus pada slide yang pertama. Next slide, please. So, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, saya berani katakan bahawa Melaka merupakan peneraju dalam menyediakan rumah mampu milik kepada setiap rakyat negeri Melaka, dan banyak usaha yang telah pun dipupuk oleh pihak kerajaan negeri melalui agensi-agensi yang berkaitan dalam mencari formula terbaik untuk penyediaan rumah mampu milik ini. Walau bagaimanapun, dalam usaha ni pihak kerajaan tetap menerima keluhan daripada pihak pemaju memandangkan mereka terpaksa menjual rumah kos rendah dan mampu milik di bawah harga kos pembinaan sebenar. Dan oleh itu, dalam membolehkan hasrat kerajaan negeri pun tercapai selain mengurangkan beban kos kepada pemaju serta memberikan pulangan kepada rakyat, maka satu titik menang-menang ataupun win-win situation perlu dicapai dan bermulalah idea untuk membangunkan konsep zero lot terrace ni. So next. Tuan-tuan, kita akan terus pergi kepada design. So actually apakah itu ZLT ataupun zero lot terrace? Untuk basic overview yang saya boleh gambarkan untuk ZLT ini adalah, yang pertama sekali, ini adalah rumah teres yang bercantum di antara satu sama lain, especially pada bahagian belakang ya. So kita boleh kenal dengan perkataan back to back. Yang kedua adalah tiada lorong belakang dan ianya telah pun meningkatkan keberkesanan guna tanah kepada sekitar 15% lebih tinggi. Dan yang ketiga, memaksimalkan build up area up to its original size, dan so bila kita gabungkan ketiga-tiga itu, so kita dah boleh gambarkan itulah dia zero lot terrace yang kita cuba perkenalkan ini. Dari segi elemen ada dua sahaja. So yang pertama adalah dia dah no more backland and we have converted itu courtyard. Dan yang keduanya adalah kita membenarkan toleransi anjakan bangunan, iaitu dengan membenarkan supaya tiada anjakan bangunan, especially dekat atas kaposh tu, dekat atas kaposh. So you dah boleh dapat lebih build up area lah. So next. So tuan-tuan dengan hanya menggunakan 2 pendekatan tadi, so maka kami telah berjaya menyelesaikan 7 masalah yang telah pun kita dapat daripada hasil kajian sebelum ni. So masalah apa? So yang pertama sekali adalah fungsi lorong belakang yang tidak lagi menghubungkan melalui utility. Yang kedua, jenayah lorong belakang seperti rogol, cabul, pecah rumah dan sebagainya. Yang ketiga, masalah privacy, tingkap bertemu tingkap, dapur bertemu dapur. Dan yang keempat, luas lantai yang terhad bagi rumah-rumah teres. Dan yang kelima, ubah suai di atas lorong belakang yang merupakan satu masalah utama di Majlis Perbandaran Tuah Jaya. Dan yang keenam, masalah denggi. Yang ketujuh, harga rumah yang kita lihat semakin mampu lihat, semakin tinggi. So next slide. So untuk kefahaman lebih lanjut, saya ada sediakan rajah untuk menggambarkan dengan lebih jelas perbandingan di antara rumah teres konvensional dengan rumah teres konsep ZLT. So yang tuan-tuan lihat ini adalah yang konvensional, dia ada lorong belakang dan sebagainya. Ini adalah rumah yang biasa. So next slide. So ini adalah rumah yang kita cadangkan. Kalau tuan-tuan lihat kereta rentas dia, tuan-tuan boleh lihat dah tiada lagi lorong belakang. Dia sekarang dah jadi back to back dan dipisahkan oleh party wall, dan kemudian setiap unit rumah ada courtyard yang tersendiri. So ini one dia untuk nak selesaikan masalah pencahayaan dan juga pengudaraan semula jadi. So next. Okay tuan-tuan yang this one is our design proposal untuk single story rumah mampu milik dengan courtyard. So kalau tuan-tuan lihat pada lorekan yang warna merah tu, so itu adalah lorong belakang yang telah pun kita tambah baik, kita tukar fungsi dia kepada satu ruangan yang baru yang lebih berfungsi. So dekat bahagian dapur tu dah ada courtyard, dah ada tambahan bilik baru. So itu saya nampak lebih efisien lah. Next slide. So yang ni pula kita nak menggambarkan new frontage untuk konsep ZLT 2 tingkat, yang mana pada bahagian atas hadapannya kita dah bagi toleransi untuk ajakan. So dekat bahagian atas tu dah boleh ada new living ataupun secondary living hall ataupun master bedroom yang lagi besar. Next. Okay, yang this one adalah kita ambil daripada real project yang tengah berjalan dekat tapak sekarang. Ini adalah floor plan untuk double story ZLT concept yang didevelop oleh pihak Arkitek Xiao di Bukit Katil Damai under NKS Development. So untuk makluman tuan-tuan 2 orang ini yang bersama-sama dengan saya semasa kita dijemput untuk present konsep baru ni di hadapan Timbalan Pengarah Bahagian Keselamatan Kebakaran Ibu Pejabat Bomba Putrajaya. Dan alhamdulillah selepas presentation tu kita dapat green light. So rasa seronok, rasa nak melompat, sebab itu merupakan satu kejayaan besar untuk kita nak aplikasi konsep ni. Just to prove that konsep ni memang konsep yang boleh berjaya, memang workout. So next. Okey tuan-tuan, so part design dah habis, tapi bila kita cakap pasal rumah mampu milik, of course memang akan melibatkan duit. Kalau tak sebut pasal duit memang tak sah. So ingat niat asal konsep ni kita perkenalkan adalah untuk menurunkan harga rumah. Tapi macam mana? So cara dia macam ni, itu dengan memberikan subsidi hasil dari lebihan jualan unit rumah kepada rumah-rumah yang lain. So since konsep ni dia dapat bawa efisiensi lebih 15%, so kami tak mahu ianya dikaut sepenuhnya oleh pihak pemaju. So cadangannya lah siapa yang guna pakai konsep ni, dia perlu ada rasa tanggungjawab untuk pulangkan kembali sebahagian keuntungan itu kepada pembeli atau kepada rakyat. So cara dia, saya akan jelaskan dia punya mekanisme dia pada next slide. So next. Next. Okey tuan-tuan, untuk nak membuat anggaran kira-kira ni saya akan buat beberapa andaian just to make it relevant. So yang pertama adalah harga jual rumah RM180,000. 1 ekar boleh memuatkan 12 unit rumah teres yang konvensional, termasuk dengan kawasan lapang, kolam takungan, lorong belakang dan juga pelbagai syarat infra yang lain. So yang ketiga adalah kawasan tapak cadangan adalah sekitar 10 ekar dan tahap efisiensi untuk ZLT adalah 15% dan juga keuntungan pemaju untuk setiap unit rumah adalah sekitar 1/4. So kita akan ambil RM40,000 lah. Jadi tuan-tuan, next page. Jadi tuan-tuan, apabila pemaju menggunakan konsep ini, so mereka akan dapat lebihan 18 unit rumah teres. So kalau kita tengok bila 18 unit ni kita convertkan kepada nilai RM1, so dia akan jadi RM720,000. So itu adalah satu amount yang sangat-sangat besar. Dan berdasarkan konsep menang-menang, kita akan cuba untuk tetapkan supaya sebahagian daripada keuntungan tersebut, so sekitar 20% akan dikembalikan kepada pihak pemaju disebabkan pemaju willing untuk use this concept. So baki lagi $500,000, around RM576,000 ini akan disyaratkan untuk dipulangkan kembali kepada pembeli dalam bentuk rebate harga jualan. So setiap unit setiap 138 unit ini dia akan mendapat rebate berjumlah sekitar 4,170 something. So selepas harga yang final adalah menjadi sekitar RM175,000. So next page. So tuan-tuan kalau kita tengok balik, actually RM4,000 ni mungkin satu nilai yang sedikit bagi setengah pihak. Namun perlu ingat bahawa ianya sangat-sangat bermakna kepada golongan yang memerlukan lah. So tuan-tuan saya tekankan di sini, angka RM4,000 ni pun datang daripada pihak PBT. So bayangkan jika lebih ramai lagi pihak yang turut serta dalam perjuangan nak menyediakan rumah mampu milik. So sebarang sumbangan idea daripada pihak pemaju, para pembekal, para teknologis, para penggiat industri yang lain sangat-sangat kami hargai. Sangat-sangat kami harapkan. So insyaAllah selepas ini bukan setakat RM4,000, malah RM14,000, mungkin RM40,000 menjadi nilai rebate yang tidak mustahil. So insyaAllah rumah anak cucu kita yang akan datang bukanlah lagi rumah mampu lihat, sebaliknya adalah rumah mampu milik. So sekian saja pembentangan saya. Arkitek Mohd, saya serahkan kembali kepada saudara.
Terima kasih banyak-banyak Tuan Fildaus from MPJHT. That's actually inspiring, especially coming from a local authority to actually work hand in hand together, as public, private, and people's partnership. So thank you to all distinguished learned presenters. Before we go to the question and answer, so I would like to summarize the three items because I think this is one of the few webinars that we actually really talked about design, because most of the talk really whether it's from a 40,000 feet overview or 4,000 feet overview. Now we are looking at a 4 feet overview, which is actually what we can touch with the design. So Dr. Asrul was talking about the psychologies of dwelling, the question about high rise or not high rise. And then Arkitek Mazlin was talking about innovation of lotting layout configuration. And I know this has got to do with some KM issues, but they will be dealt during the question and answer. Then Tuan Fildaus talks about the redesign of those lots as a development. So dia bagi satu idea baru dan dia bagi satu overlooking baru. Maknanya kita tidak lagi kongkong from our 1940s or 1960s design manner. So I would like to now invite our presenters and participants for discussion, and I hope you all can put as many questions that you can, and if time allows, I would like to also allow for Arkitek Mazlin to speak about the stratified redesigning of some of those things. So the question, if you can put at the Q&A bar, and this will give us more easier view to look at these questions. All right. Ada beberapa soalan di sini. Let's go to some of the questions. Some questions have been answered online. Thank you very much to Arkitek Mazlin. But can you describe to us, I think one question here about the KM in the form, because you're looking at staggered of the party wall. So Arkitek Mazlin, that will answer quite a few of these questions here. You can, it will answer about Muhammad Fazli's Sarif question, and there's another one from anonymous attendee. So okay, Arkitek Mazlin, can you answer that? How do you deal with the staggered wall during the first designs? Thank you.
Yeah, you know, we are in Malaysia, we are guided by regulations and bylaws. So sometimes there is a problem, and I know about this because a lot of when you try to do something new, sometimes you have to do something which is out of the box, which has not been done before. But look at it from another way. I know of no law, no land laws that say that plots of land must be rectangular. There's no law. And if you look at existing land, pieces of land, agricultural land, and so on, you will see that there are a lot of land shapes which are irregular polygons, which take the shape of irregular polygons. So it can be any shape, So there is no law that says that you cannot stagger your party walls. I don't believe so. That's one. Secondly, is I have in fact got one approval for not for terrace houses, but for cluster houses, whereby I did stagger the boundaries between adjoining units, and we got approval in that one case. Of course, you have to sell this idea to developers and planners at the early stage, not after they have subdivided the lots. But before they subdivide, I think you can still do it.
So that means to say that we need to do it at master planning stage, right?
Yes, we have to sell our ideas to other people in the building industry. That's
right.
a very important part.
Yeah.
Of our work.
So this is the question that I think we need to actually be proactive and tell these stories to the developers and also to our land surveyors, our friend land surveyors, to actually do the lotting in that manner. Before I go to Tuan Fildaus to answer a few questions about the new ZLT, Arkitek Mazlin, could you share with us the high-rise version of your solution, Tuan Mazlin?
Basically, it's too short a time for me to go into the high-rise version because it's technically quite complicated. But basically, the idea is that we do away with corridors. Okay. Corridors are not monofunctional spaces, long, narrow. You only use it for circulation and for nothing else. And instead of the same area that you use for corridors, you turn them into regular, a more regular shape. That means the width, the length, and the height is bigger, so it becomes a courtyard. And then you access your units from the courtyards, not from corridors. So in that way, you can create gardens in the courtyards, not only for ground floor units, but in the proposal that I have, it's for every unit on the for every unit on the apartment, if you choose to do so.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
In my written answers, I actually put in a link that people can go to my blog and refer to it. It's too long to explain.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But in fact, this webinar is all about that. It's actually about sharing ideas, sharing solutions, because we have the wheel, but we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we have to work better on the wheel. So I think this one, I think there are a few questions for Tuan Mohd Fildaus. Okay, first question from Nazaruddin Masad here. ZLT seems like a good concept of housing. Do you plan to present to KPKT and implement nationwide? How do you see about this, Tuan Fildaus?
Okey, kalau dapat present pada pihak KPKT lagi baik, dan kita pun memang kalau boleh nak cari cara juga untuk kita present this idea pada pihak KPKT. But right now yang paling tinggi yang kita pernah present adalah di peringkat state sajalah, dan alhamdulillah lah dia punya tu memang positif.
Maybe under HUW, Puan Nur Zakia, we can work together with MPJHT to actually put this as a effort from the architects, especially Tuan Fildaus also an architect in the Majlis. Okay, another question from Tai Long Chow here. Zero lot housing, Malaysians being Malaysians will end up sealing and covering over the air wells. Happens all the time. Any solutions to this problem?
Ini adalah soalan yang sama yang pernah ditanya oleh pihak Bomba HQ tempoh hari. So jawapan balas kita balik kepada pihak Bomba, nak tak nak memang Majlis terpaksa buat enforcement yang sangat-sangat kritikal. So kita akan terpaksa gunakan kaedah-kaedah yang moden, sebagai contoh drone. Sebab of course lah, bila nak tengok kawasan yang courtyard dekat bahagian yang terperosok di bahagian belakang ni, nak tak nak memang kena pakai drone untuk kita tengok daripada tingkat atas. So kalau tidak, memang takkan dapat. Dia berbeza dengan Tuan?
Drone
monitoring. Berbeza dengan rumah tidak sedia ada. Kalau nak buat renovation depan belakang, kita akan pantau depan dan belakang kan. So bila tipu macam ni, Majlis terpaksa akan jadi lebih proaktif lah. Dia akan cari cara macam mana sekalipun.
I hope that answers Tai Long Chow's questions. Another one from Gan Kok Yong here. ZLT has applied in one project in Alam Damai Ceras, just that is under strata development. In And then the comment is internal shared courtyard, zero setback. Zero setback is the thing Majlis need to review as land getting limited. Okay, they were talking about stratified. In your case, it's not stratified kan? Dia sebenarnya landed kan?
Betul. Open
okay.
scheme.
Open scheme. Okay, so I hope that also will answer any questions and also any doubts that it only can happen at stratified land. But I think this is where, according to Arkitek Mazlin, we need to actually impress during the master planning stage, and we tell that is actually a normal type of housing. Okay, this is another comment from Cik Aziz Sharif. He said hopefully this ZLT concept can be implemented nationwide. Okay, they also saying kudos to MPJHT. So hopefully mungkin PEM juga boleh buat lautan tapak to see how it's actually been done, and maybe that also is a learning and also collaboration antara local authority dan our fellow architects. Boleh kan Tuan Fildaus?
Boleh, just let me know, saya akan arrangekan. Just to let you know, sample house saya difahamkan oleh pihak pemaju akan siap bulan depan. So kalau tengok sample house bulan depan lah.
So kalau
That's nice, we can.
Kalau masih dalam PKP mungkin kita pakai drone jugalah kot. Okay, so I think here a lot of people are actually saluting the idea the staggered party wall will solve a lot of problem, especially to Arkitek Mazlin's some of the solutions. And okay, this one also will solve the problem of illegal renovation by house owners. Okay, I got a question to Dr. Asrul. Okay, with this ZLT, now dulu kita boleh roaming at the back, right? Back lane. So sekarang ni dah tak ada lagi. You only have got one road at the front to roam. So maknanya just like kalau you duplicate the masalah at high rise, there's only a corridor that's actually going to become like our outdoor public space lah. And the courtyard is your private open space. So how do you deal with this sort of stress ataupun where nobody can go to the back now, but everybody must go to the front. So how did you do that? And would that be another good study topic for your doctorate students or even university? Thank your answer, Doctor.
Oh, that's quite a tough one. All right. Stress comes in many forms, yeah, and what we learn is that throughout this MCU, we are quite surprised that actually the stress is actually for those age group of early 20s, not the 30s or 40s or 50s or even younger. And what actually happened is that they just wanted to have some kind of interaction. That does not mean that it cannot be physical or online. So if you have a space, as long as that can be done, it's okay. So I differ a bit. What is Arkitek Mazlin statement on corridor is nothing just but then a way of people just walk in and out. Currently we have tons of PPR. So what are we going to do with all this PPR? So one of the politicians asked us, is there any way we can help ke bangunan ni? PPR sudah buat ni, banyak ni, beribu ni. And these are the things that's happening. You know, to be frank, I didn't say it here, but the total number of social ill and problems is huge. Yeah, promiscuity is almost like what Thailand in the high rise. And what I'm saying here is that those spaces now existing. Yeah, with corridor. I'm talking about what it is now. Those spaces existing as this corridor. So those are spaces currently for what the household and those people are doing. So so we are working out with what the politician and also the current people who are in power, see whether is there any way we can help. You know, obviously maybe you heard about a broken glass theory, I think by Wilson. Yeah? So coming back to that statement over that question, Architect Mus, pertaining to the space. Yeah? you can have a space at the back, yeah, but as long as there's the space, especially for kids, you got to ask yourself, who's going to use that space? If the kids are going to space, obviously, you know, you must have a kind of physical or eye-level contact with that space, so the parents feel a bit that, you know, they have somehow the aura of you know, supervising their kids. You know, I mean, they are also housing development which has not been built together with a play area, but somehow there are people around that housing development quite happy. Yeah, as a matter of fact, as I expressed earlier, at the end of the day, do they complain about the cost? Do they complain about you know, the environment? Panas sangat ke? You know, tak cukup ruang, you know. You know, in our research, that one unit is about 18, ya, 18 orang boleh duduk satu unit. You know, that mean I can talk in the different details. So at the end of the day, you know, we have to work on. I mean, the solution in KL cannot be used in Kelantan. Solution in Kelantan, solution in Penang cannot be used if you are talking about Arctic multi-tiered, you know, completely different kind of society.
Yeah, I got a hand from twice.
Yes.
Hand from
Yeah,
Arkitek Mazlin. Yes, Mazlin, can you can interject?
Yeah.
Your view.
Okay. Affordable housing is not solely an architectural problem. We cannot solve all the problems to do with affordable housing. And I think a big problem is this policy of providing PPRs, specifically like what we're going to do with the PPRs. It's not the architectural design. I think it is, shall we say, the social design. I like to use the word ghetto. You know, a lot of these places actually will become ghettos the moment you hand over the keys. Why do I use the word ghetto? If you look at the what it means, ghetto, how it turns out. It actually started out in Europe, in old parts of the town, old parts of the cities which were not attractive, near dump sites, so on, and the poorer people go there organically. You know, nobody forced them, but they went there and they built their own houses, like slum houses, and they were all equally poor, let's say, like the poorest of the city. They stay in the ghettos, and other people would not go there. So it was done organically. When you have PPRs, what you have is they replace this organic method of creating ghettos into a planned ghetto, so to speak, because you say the occupants of this neighborhood, and these neighborhoods can be 1,000 people, 2,000 people, will only be poor people. You're right?
Yes.
And you know, if you do low-cost flats, where do planners put or architects even, where do they put the low-cost flats? They put it in the lowest part of the development, the least attractive, just next door to the sewage treatment plant, if not the oxidation point. So it is not just an architectural problem. Architects cannot solve all the problems if in the first place you presuppose a wrong solution.
Yes.
And I think PPR is actually a wrong solution. And we have to discuss that with other people in the industry.
I mean, there's a thing that one of the politicians in Jabatan said, what are you going to do? This is semua sudah naik, beratus ni. Are we going to demolish this and make a new one?
No,
going to talk?
I have an answer.
These are, I mean, wait, sorry. These are the things I think is very good for this platform, is that we can have anthropologists, social anthropologists, we can have planners, architects, people like, you know, Arkitek Nozakia, Arkitek Mazlin, we have various different ideas to see, you know, to see whether how best we can help the society. Obviously, it's not a one profession kind of solution then or approach.
Arkitek Mazlin, you're saying that you got a solution?
I don't know whether it will be adopted, but you change you have to rehouse everybody. You have to put in a different social mix, a mix between the rich, the middle class, and the poor in one building. So you have to disperse the poor people. I mean, this is how it's like in kampungs. Kampungs, in traditional kampungs, not all the poor people live in one area. You know, in one kampung, there's a rich man, there's a middle, you know, people who are not so well off, and people who are poor. And somehow, I think the social environment is much better instead of this segregated. You know, I think we don't imagine this, but actually we are segregating rich people from poor people. Every time you do a layout and you carve up, the hill is for bungalows, the slope is for semi-detached houses, then further down terrace houses, and down at the bottom low-cost flats, you know.
Yeah,
That is segregation. You know, that is segregation of income, by income.
So, Tuan Fildaus, you these are from practitioners and also educationists. Can we have a view from the local authority, architect in the local authority, you know, having to see all this happen and done by architects or even urban planners? So, apa tanggapan daripada Tuan?
Macam mana saya nak jawab dalam keadaan yang membolehkan harmoni di antara melibatkan profesional lain ni, sebab kita tengok yang this one apabila macam arkitek dia dah terpaksa buat according to KM. Dia dah macam dah fokus dekat situ lah kan. Somehow benda ni kita rasanya kena sit down balik dengan planner especially supaya isu yang dikatakan oleh pihak arkitek Mazlin tu kita dapat solvekan. Tapi apa yang arkitek Mazlin tu kata memang saya rasa benda yang betul. Masalah pengasingan dari segi income itu memang berlaku di tapak. Dan benda ni kena solvekan supaya dia akan ada interaction dan tidak diasingkan dari segi pendapatan itu sendiri. Itu yang paling penting sekali.
Okay. Saya ada one question sini from Cik Muhammad Fazli Sarip. Just wondering if there's no access at the back, how to do maintenance if there are drain blockage, and I believe it will be covered underground and some services still using backlane. Ada yang projek sekarang ni macam mana Tuan Fildaus? Are all the services in the front or macam mana? Can you elaborate? Thank you.
Okay. Yang this one sebelum kita derive dengan konsep ni memang kita buat session bersama dengan utilities provider daripada syarikat air, daripada TNB, daripada IWK dan sebagainya. So kita dah take note dan kita dah maklumkan dan kita pun dah ambil input daripada mereka-mereka ini sebelum kita datang dengan konsep ini. So semua yang utilities tu memang akan perlu diletakkan dekat bahagian jalan hadapan. So dia tidak akan letak pada bahagian bawah rumah dan sebagainya. Cuma dekat bahagian courtyard tu kalau untuk setakat nak mengalihkan air hujan, so akan terus masuk kepada internal sewerage lah. So yang that one kita akan try untuk minimizekan benda-benda yang lagi kritikal lah. Sebagai contoh, kalau macam yang rumah teres biasa, dia punya semua sewage tu akan pergi kepada lorong belakang. Tapi right now apa yang berlaku dekat Melaka, benda tu semua dah pindah ke depan juga. So that's why I kata lorong belakang dekat Melaka ni dia dah tak jadi, dia tak fit dengan function dia yang sebelum ni.
Okay, just to do a little bit of promotion for you, MPHG, you are one of the local authorities yang ada big data, right? So a lot of your data are there for low carbon city, so can access from MPJHT. Okay, I got 3 more questions ini. I think, okay, one question here from Hang Chong Lu. This one, if anyone can take the question, can JKR take up the responsibility to do social housing like before? I think we start with Arkitek Mazlin first.
I think history shows, and this is just if you look up the facts, the private sector has built more low-cost housing than the public sector. You know, yes, we can. The public sector can take up the load of doing social housing, but it must be a strong effort like what people have done in Singapore. If you are half-hearted, you cannot do it because it needs a lot of investment. Okay, so can, but you need a political will.
Tuan Fildaus, ada apa-apa komentar di Melaka macam mana? Ada tak ura-ura that the load goes back to the public sector ataupun is still ikut private sector yang akan do as part of the KM requirement of a low, medium cost ke medium cost development? Ada masih status quo
Yang that one masih status quo, tapi dekat Melaka ni sini, tapi kalau saya nak relate balik dengan yang soalan tadi yang berkenaan dengan responsibility tu adakah terletak di bawah pihak JKR? boleh ke tidak. Kalau saya nak relatekan dekat situ, actually pihak tanggungjawab untuk penyediaan rumah mampu milik ataupun yang social housing ni, actually dia bukannya perlu diletakkan kepada pihak swasta semata-mata lah. Kalau kita tengok contoh-contoh yang lepas, memang banyak inisiatif tu daripada pihak swasta sendiri. Tapi ini adalah atas faktor syarat-syarat daripada pihak kerajaan lah. Cuma di sini konsep dia, apa yang orang nampak, persepsi yang orang nampak adalah seolah-olah macam government hanya setakat letakkan apa-apa syarat, just simply like that, dan meletakkan beban itu untuk dipenuhi oleh pihak swasta. So dekat sini saya nak maklumkan bahawa tanggungjawab tu bukanlah tanggungjawab penyediaan itu bukanlah terletak pada pihak swasta semata-mata, tapi semua orang, semua pihak perlu terlibat untuk selesaikan masalah ni. Sebab kalau kita tengok
all stakeholders.
Yes, semua. Termasuklah politik.
Okay. Jadi betul lah tadi yang you diagram mula-mula cakap tu 3W tu kan, win-win-win kan. Okay, so okay, sini ada satu question daripada arkitek Azlan ni, Syarawi Mokhtar. I think the crux of the issue with affordable housing is that for now at least it's merely a requirement in any development, as Arkitek Mazlin highlighted. It is almost always placed in the least favorable space with the market. As much as we can't solve anything to architecture, how do you foresee this can be tackled? Question to all. Start with you, Arkitek Mazlin.
With me, okay. It's a difficult question to answer. I think Encik Frida tadi gave the hint what the answer is, and that is everybody in the housing delivery, involved in the housing delivery, must work together. At the moment, I think a lot of times architects blame planners, planners blame politicians, politicians blame developers, developers blame authorities, and you know the ball is always on other people's court. We have to work together. Each player must think of how they themselves, not other people, how they themselves can contribute. Everybody, because there are many factors that go into the cost of a house. So everybody must play a part. I think that's the thing that we have to do. And I think that architects also have to start talking to each other and talk to, other people involved. As Architect Mohd has done, got an authority, somebody in authority to come and talk to us. I think it's very important.
Tuan Fildaus, ada apa-apa komentar daripada situ?
Soalan ni dia tricky.
Yeah, I know. From the local authority, dia akan tengok benda tu ada dua soal.
Betul. Nak solve semua ni memang susah. Kita dekat peringkat kita pun kadang-kadang kita akan terikat dengan garis panduan perancangan dan sebagainya. Somehow itu nak kata kalau nak macam Bible kita pun tak adalah, it's just a garis panduan. But somehow benda ni nak kena educate the whole stakeholders in order untuk pastikan soalan yang tadi ni terjawab. Betul, kalau betul memang saya memang akui bahawa kalau yang untuk nak buat affordable housing ni dia hanya setakat macam requirement semata-mata. Tapi tuan-tuan, saya nak cerita dekat sini. Contohnya dekat Melaka, saya bagi contoh untuk rumah-rumah mampu milik ataupun rumah-rumah kos rendah. Actually ada beberapa isu yang dikatakan oleh pihak pemaju, mengatakan bahawa rumah-rumah ini tidak terjual pula di kemudian hari selepas dibina. Selepas dah dapat borang F, dia masih lagi tidak terjual untuk tempoh 1 tahun hingga 2 tahun, dan somehow dia akan untuk projek yang akan datang dia akan mula untuk nego dengan pihak kerajaan negeri untuk nak kurangkan dia punya requirement dan juga bilangan yang akan perlu dibina pada projek yang akan datang. So itu dilema kita lah. So sama ada kita nak provide lebih rumah mampu milik pada masa akan datang ataupun kita nak kurangkan. Itu pun dilema baru yang kita hadapi sekarang ni.
Dr. Asrul, ada apa-apa short one before I go to the next question?
Society kita believe like this, kalau tak beli rumah, hidup tak lengkap. So kalau perlu, nak tak nak perlu juga beli rumah. And then, the first slide that I showed to you a child, betul ke poor ni? But when I start my interview, the respondent flashed a nicer handphone than me. I was like wondering.
Okay. That's a good symbolic answer. Okay, ada satu sini. I think this one goes to Arkitek Mazlin because he has done that 12,000 units too. How does RSKU in Selangor helping in the equation of that solving the housing problem, Arkitek Mazlin?
Oh.
Will it solve or?
Again, again, it's a short time to answer a complicated question. I think the problem with mandated, the problem that we have in the mandated sort of 30% low cost or whatever percent low cost is that if you build 100 houses, you have to say build 30 subsidized houses, okay? So it's not the government subsidizing the 30 houses, it is the 70 people who buy the 70 houses. The problem with this sort of mandates is that developers will prefer to sell these 70 houses to the high-end people. You know, whether you build one house high-end or one house medium cost, you still have to subsidize one, 0.3 low-cost house. So it is, I want to use an economic term, it is a flat tax. You know, it's as if everybody in Malaysia pays only, say, 1,000 ringgit in tax. Whether you are poor or whether you are a millionaire, whether you are, somebody working, whether you are a waiter in a restaurant or whether you are, who's the richest person, like Mohd, for example. Everybody pays the same amount of tax. So in housing, that's how it is. Whether you buy a 2-3 million bungalow or you buy a 400,000 medium cost house, you have to subsidize 0.3 low cost house. You know, do you think that's unfair? I think that's very unfair. You know, we have to change that basic thing, and this has been going on. Now, RSKU has made it a little bit more softer. You know, instead of 30% low cost, now is 40 or 50% RSKU. So people have the requisite, 200,000, 150,000, 200,000. But yet again, who bears the burden of subsidizing RSKU?
Developers.
The burden is the builders? No, not developers. Developers charge it to the buyers, and mainly the buyers who are looking for 500,000 houses, they suffer because their subsidy is still 0.5 RSKU houses. The people who buy $2 million houses, also their subsidy 0.5 RSKU houses. So it is an unfair tax system, and I think we have to change that tax system so that it is more equitable, so that rich people may pay more tax to subsidize the low-cost houses or the affordable houses compared to the people who are middle class. In fact, I would like to add one more thing. In fact, the rich people, they don't pay any low-cost house tax because the areas where they build their houses, like Bukit Tengku, there's no low-cost house requirement. All right, and we buy a service apartment, there's no low-cost house requirement. Okay, so it's a very unfair system. We have to change that.
Okay, I think I got one question here, which I think we got people from the education, from the authority and also architect. Okay, adakah this is from anonymous, adakah segregation ini disebabkan oleh faktor harga tanah dan harga rumah itu sendiri? Can I have Tuan Fildaus to answer first? You rotate that way because I got a special question for Dr. Asrul later.
Okey Tuan, masalah segregation ni boleh jadi dan saya nampak memang ke arah situlah dia akan mengasingkan ke arah situ in order sebab itu saya ambil contoh kalau beli rumah mahal mesti ada view yang cantik sebab dia letakkan harga rumah tu sekali dengan view. So kena menghadap tasik, kena menghadap hutan dan sebagainya. So untuk rumah yang kos rendah, dia akan kata okey tak perlu ada view yang cantik pun sebab dia pun bayar harga yang murah. So terpaksa letakkan macam yang arkitek Mazlin katakan tadi, letak dekat sebelah oxidation pond dan sebagainya. Pond juga, tapi adakah pond tu pond yang cantik? So isu dia dekat sini kita punya pembangunan betul-betul mengasingkan secara total dekat situ. So that's why saya banyak kali ada cuba untuk menasihatkan supaya kalau boleh pengasingan ini kita kurangkan. So macam mana caranya? Mungkin boleh letak dalam small scale, contoh rumah-rumah yang banglo, yang mahal dan rumah yang medium dan juga rumah yang low cost mungkin boleh diletakkan dalam satu area yang lebih kecil, small scale tapi digabungkan dan bentuk dipecah kecilkan dalam keseluruhan pembangunan yang lebih besar. So at least benda tu akan dapat solve yang masalah segregation tadi tu. Cuma dekat sini sometimes syarat-syarat yang dikenakan semasa pembangunan itu meletakkan amount ataupun bilangan rumah kos rendah yang sangat-sangat besar, sangat-sangat tinggi. So that's why tak nak pihak pemaju ataupun pihak planner dan juga arkitek akan terpaksa letakkan rumah kos rendah ini secara bertingkat, macam rumah pangsa dan sebagainya. So dari segi location tu actually kita boleh ubah lagi lah. Tu nasihat saya lah selaku pihak authority.
Arkitek Mazlin.
Yalah, when I talk about segregation, I don't want to sound too much like a communist lah. You know, I don't mean, I'm not suggesting that millionaires, orang millionaire duduk kat sebelah dengan orang miskin. Tapi the problem is sekarang that segregation is brought to a very extreme limit. I think very extreme. When you letakkan 1,000 orang, 2,000 orang in one neighborhood, I think macam mana pun arkitek we cannot solve the problem.
Cannot. Betul.
I cannot solve the problem because the social condition is already so bad. So I'm not suggesting that that millionaires must live next door to people who are poor. No, I'm just suggesting that the extremes be avoided. That's one thing. Secondly, I think also, sometimes there are common sense solutions. Like for example, if you do high-end housing, for instance, you need guards, you need gardeners, you need daycare workers. Why don't you provide some of the housing in forms of some of the low-cost social housing in the form of apartments for people who become gardeners, who become daycare center caregivers, can become security guards. They stay there, and then not only we will provide housing, but you also provide employment, which actually for the poorest of the poor, this is what they want, employment. I think that is my one common sense solution. And sometimes when people talk about how low cost housing, I wonder when they do this low cost housing, do they actually call the Ministry of Welfare, the Department of Welfare, who actually got the list of people who are poor, who need poor, whether these people have big families, small families, whether they're single parents, whatever. We have to stop thinking of the people that need houses as being faceless and put a face on them. Who are these people actually? Put names, identify where they are, where they work, where they need their houses, and then we must have that. Don't treat it as a supply problem. I don't think it is purely a supply problem. It's a demand problem. So go as close as you can to the demand.
All right. I got one question to Dr. Asrul. Secretariat, how many minutes do I have? Then I can actually see how. I got one question specifically for Dr. Asrul. This is from Hang Chong-du just now. To Dr. Asrul, what about the planning department? Do the master plan of the development and invite private developer to take up the individual lot development? Then we may take a better control of the housing environment for the people. What's your take, Dr. Asrul?
Let me give you another picture of segregation. Segregation from the moment we are born, we go to school, segregated really. Budak pandai, budak tak pandai, yang dekat, yang jauh, whether from economic portion or to non-economic portion, we are segregated. And sorry, I mean, this is nice part of being lecturer who can commend the politician, and say, oh, we are doing research. Politicians need segregation. Otherwise, the party won't be there. The Malay party, the Indian party, the Chinese party will be direct on this. So whoever you give the master plan, what is the first goal for that master plan? Is it for the society or is it for self dollar and cent? What want to be the goal? If let's say just take it for example, there is the Abdullah Hukum, LRT or MRT. You put the high-end apartments. Why not? That high-end apartment, I think the area is great for middle income or slightly lower middle income group, because they're the one who like to commute, using the public transport, and yet they are far away. So it's coming back. You can have a master plan from developers and then let the developers get that. But then, what is the agenda? So that's the thing. When the question that I raised to the minister, the former minister now.
Okay.
They show the back. So
Understood. Ni satu design question pada Tuan Fildaus ya.
Boleh?
Okay. Ni in your ZLT ni ada from Cik Nazaruddin Masab ni. Drying clothes yard ni macam mana kalau ZLT?
Encik Nazaruddin Masad, dia tanya pasal drying clothes yard.
Ya.
Okay. Bila kita dah sediakan courtyard tu, terpulanglah kepada pembeli dia nak buat apa kat courtyard tu. Dia nak jadikan sebagai laman yang berfungsi ataupun dia nak gunakan sebagai untuk tempat jemur pakaian pun dipersilakan. But somehow bila dah jadi pembeli ni, kita dah tak boleh nak kawal dah apa dia nak buat kat courtyard tu. Kalau ambil yang contoh sekarang pun, lorong belakang tu pun dia dah letak geban ayam, dia letakkan dia punya tempat tampayan dan sebagainya. So kita cuma provide satu ruang yang lebih private kepada pembeli lah.
Yeah, now the question starts coming in drones. So, but it's okay. We can handle that. Inshallah. Okay. I think to one question to Arkitek Azlan, PEM housing urban well-being will be trying to draft to get hold of every stakeholders kalau boleh, especially untuk datang lihat site, how to talk about this your ZLT dan juga tengok sendiri, dan juga untuk bring other form of solution jugalah to talk about segregation macam mana Melaka buat, because I think it's good to have an architect at that level to actually do the innovation, to actually explain to the public as well as to the Majlis board. Then it can be as a benchmark, and I think we should have this more of this dialogue. I think now is 12:15. If the secretary doesn't say anything, I just carry on. So unless you got any other question, but for myself, right now, when we are now after 63 years of Merdeka, how do you see this question on affordable housing? Because we also see that, as what Tuan Fildaus is saying, not many takers, even though the houses are being provided, right? So how can academician or practitioner and local authority feedback to the system so that it's no more a quantitative requirement, but they have to look at the qualitative, meaning they must provide some form of data on demand of this sort of housing during KM stage. Can I ask Arkitek Mazlin to answer first on this issue?
Oh, okay. Yeah, answer low-cost houses, you know, they are called low-cost houses and they are called affordable houses just because their name is affordable and it's a low-cost house or affordable house. Doesn't mean that it is affordable and doesn't mean it is low-cost. The real meaning of affordable and low-cost must come from the people who actually have to buy or rent the houses. So it must be defined that way, you know. So obviously when you have low-cost houses which cannot be sold or affordable houses which cannot be sold, that means the people who supposed to be able to target group, they cannot afford, or if they cannot or if they cannot afford, or if they can afford, the quality is not the right quality, the location is not the right location. Yes, we need information. Yeah, you know, if you have one way is to go the planning way, you collect all the data and you provide the information to everybody so that everybody has the right information and provide the right level of housing at the right locations and, you know, the right quantity and so on. Also quite difficult, you know, or you can do a private sector way where you have maybe fewer regulations and let the market decide, right? Let the market decide how you know how you can overcome this problem. So it's somewhere between the two, it's somewhere between, you know, you fix the central government the government fixes all the requirements and then the private sector has all the solution, or rather the market demands all the solution. Somewhere in between. I don't know whether I make sense, but it's a difficult question.
So Fildaus?
Okey Tuan, yang this one saya cuba kaitkan pula dengan something else sebab saya nampak rumah mampu milik ni kita kena cerita dalam satu skop yang lagi besar. saya nak ambil satu kes dekat Melaka yang saya sendiri alami. Dekat Melaka ni kenapa ada banyak lambakan rumah-rumah yang mampu milik yang tidak dijual adalah disebab faktor kelaikan pinjaman. Kita dah sediakan rumah mampu milik harga yang murah, tapi somehow untuk mereka-mereka ni membeli rumah mampu milik tu pun mereka tak mampu disebabkan oleh apa yang saya dapati, syarat-syarat pinjaman bank sangat-sangat ketat dan sangat-sangat sukar untuk dilepas. Contoh, ada seorang pembeli rumah yang harganya RM60,000, harganya murah kan, RM60,000, tapi dia mengalami masalah untuk membeli disebabkan dia bekerja kilang, gaji pokoknya cuma RM800 dan somehow bank require supaya dia letakkan nama kedua. Tapi orang rumahnya pula suri rumah, tak bekerja. So dia terpaksa mengharapkan gaji OT sehingga dia punya gaji mencapai RM1,200 baru dia layak untuk buat pinjaman rumah kos rendah yang berharga RM60,000. So nak beli rumah RM60,000 pun sukar, apatah lagi nak beli rumah yang berharga RM180,000 dan ke atas. So saya cadangkan untuk next session kita mungkin kita boleh panggil somebody yang berkenaan dengan banking ke apa ke, maybe mereka boleh provide solution untuk mempermudahkan proses kelulusan untuk rumah mampu milik ni.
Thank you, Tuan Fildaus. Okay, Dr. Asrul.
Yeah. Okay. The first is that kalau boleh jangan ada the word affordable or low cost. Just high rise ke low rise ke house in Kampung Baru ke whatever it is. You know, itu dah jadi dah brand orang. And then another thing is that I would like to take this opportunity slowly through the qualitative and also part the quantitative data, we start having boomerang generation yang anak-anak dia keluar, dia sewa, dia kahwin, kemudian dia ada anak, dia don't know where to go, maybe too expensive, they want to take care their expenses, they come back and stay. You know, this if not been taken care of, along the line, there will be some social issues. But nevertheless, as both of the presenters and also yourself has highlighted, this is not one person, one professional champion. But I seriously would like to stress here, the politician, the people in the government, or the authorities got to come clean with the solution. The moment there's an agenda somewhere, then it's very, very difficult.
Okay, that's a very, how shall I say, promising solution. Yes, Arkitek Mazlin.
Yeah, just talking about trying to answer the question. I did a bit of a study on a project that I was doing in Kajang. There was mixed low medium cost houses, 80,000, 100,000, 60,000. Next to it was low cost houses, 6 stories, ground floor empty, 25,000. So I just collected the information when the houses were launched and how many months it took to sell the houses. So within a few months, actually the expensive houses went first. They were put on the lower floors of the 5-story mixed price housing, and then the upper floors went last. The low cost went unsold for a long time, few years, 25,000 next to each other. So it was not location. I think maybe it was the stigma of buying a low cost house. Yeah, maybe it was because those people who, if they qualify for low cost house, they don't qualify for loan. Yeah. That is the catch-20. Is it catch-22?
Yeah, catch-22. Yeah.
Catch-22. I don't know what are the reasons, but these houses were built according to state requirements. The area, the location. The only thing is I fought hard to say, please don't force me to separate the medium cost from the low medium cost. Put them in one block. All right. And okay, the higher end will be on the first floor, second floor, then the more expensive one on the top floor. So a little bit of
creative arrangement.
Kelonggaran, you make a bit of waivers, then it works better than if you are too stick. In those, I'm sure 6-story terrace house, 6-story walk-up apartment, ground floor empty, top 2 floors very difficult to sell, even if it's 25,000. So, we have to be a bit more flexible in our regulations.
Arkitek Mus, just one last shot. Yeah, one last shot from us is that it's like this. Yeah, if they park their car, their Mercedes, their Nissan Almera, and their Viva, they go down the basement. Do they worry? This is for the rich, for this is poor, for this is for the no. They don't worry about that. Yeah, what I'm saying is that I think about time the social anthropologists come in hand with us.
Good.
Yeah, and not separately somewhere.
Okay, so that's where the role of collaboration under the SDG pun, SDG 17, collaboration towards the goal, right? So now is 12:23. I got to end it in another 2 more minutes. So I don't see any new questions popping up, but I hope we have answered. Some have been answered on a site, some have been answered verbally. So I think before we go, I would like to say that, okay, Puan Nur Zakia, I was about to go to you actually. Okay, can you offer any thoughts, because you've now seen this crossfire of ideas, crossfire of comments. So Arkitek Nur Zakia, our chairperson. Hello.
Okay, my question is back to the question. Hello, boleh dengar kan?
Yes, sir.
Mic harus lah. Satu saya nak tanya, ZLT yang sekarang diimplementasikan ni bila nak siap, sebab there are many people who text me privately asking, bolehkah kita pergi melawat? Satu. Nombor dua, dia orang tanya sebab bukan nak kata low cost housing atau on the low end, selalunya they want to maximize whatever they can use the spaces. Akan terjadi di belakang tu akan jadi cluttered, dia jadi macam for fire punya hazard lah. Sebab kita tak boleh control, tanah tu dah hak dia dah sekarang. Jadi macam mana pihak authority akan mengambil tindakan ataupun nak selenggarakan sebarang mishappenings lah. Sebab kita sekarang ni tahfiz lah, sekolah, asrama and all that, kita tengah pantau by bomba. So nombor 3, nak tanya kalau yang ni kan jadi presiden, apakah precaution yang mungkin pihak-pihak stakeholders seperti bomba and those sewerage and all that, macam sebab kita ada toilet kat belakang tu kan, dia nampak kan. So benda-benda macam ni lah tak nak kemudian akan terjadi masalah. Tapi nak bagi site kat belakang tu, memang saya ada buat satu housing on the higher end at Setia Alam. They have backyard yang quite spacious tapi ada laluan services. Sebab ada laluan services tu, dia orang buat landscape and all that. Jadi tempat cik-cik lah. Untuk makcik-makcik ni boleh duduk, pakcik-pakcik pencen pun boleh duduk. Tapi nampak macam area tu terbuka. Tapi yang ini kita tengok tertutup. So these are the question they texted me and tanya. Sebab atas saya pun tanya dalamnya. They said too short, takut end. And then they want to discuss further with Tuan Muhammad Fildaus ni.
Okay, Tuan Fildaus.
Okey, terima kasih Arkitek Nur Zakia. Yang first kali yang soalan pasal bila boleh lawat, tu jangan risau. InsyaAllah kita akan pakat dengan pihak pemaju untuk buat satu lautan tapak. Kunjung hormat daripada pihak PEM terus ke tapak dan sebagainya, tak ada masalah, tu saya boleh aturkan. So soalan yang kedua berkenaan dengan yang tadi tu, apa langkah-langkah precaution. Alright, yang ini memang kita betul-betul bagi penekanan. Kita ada, sebelum kita luluskan perkara ini, memang kita ada buat beberapa pertemuan bersama dengan pihak pemaju dan juga pihak arkitek. Arkiteknya adalah Arkitek Tiasyau. Benda ni kita letakkan dalam cara education. Sebagai contoh, ketika lulus nanti kita akan letakkan beberapa plate notification. Sebagai contoh dekat bahagian koyak tadi, kita akan mentionkan ruangan ini adalah tidak boleh ditutup dan sebagainya. Ada sebenarnya special wording tu dan sebagainya. Dan juga segala utilities yang tadi tu yang Arkitek Nur Zakia cakap tu, actually kita akan letakkan dekat dia punya laluan kedua. Kalau kita tengok pada plan tadi tu, actually rumah itu ada 2 pintu masuk sebenarnya. Pintu masuk dan pintu keluar. Pertama pada bahagian hadapan, dan juga kalau kita lihat dia ada satu side lane yang menuju ke dapur. So yang silent ini apabila kita bincang dengan bomba letakkan requirement silent itu dia akan jadi seolah-olah macam protected corridor. So syarat protected corridor yang mana kita tengok pada rumah-rumah high rise sebelum ini, dia akan letakkan syarat itu pada silent tadi tu. Dari segi protection untuk fire requirement insyaAllah dah okey. Cuma kalau tadi yang untuk dari segi teknikal lain sebagai contoh, kalau untuk piping dan sebagainya, so dia juga akan lalu di situ juga. So untuk easy maintenance lah senang cerita. So actually dekat side lane tadi tu pun akan ada satu lagi plate notification yang memaklumkan supaya tidak boleh ditutup ataupun tidak boleh digrillkan in order untuk fire escape lah. So dia punya langkah-langkah kawalan tu kita akan jaga. So saya tak nak kata yang design ini perfect, akan ada lagi keadaan untuk kita improvise pada masa akan datang. So insyaAllah akan datang tu kita akan cuba perbaiki lagi.
So as the architect say, what's your next best project is your next project, right? So
yes.
So this is a starting point lah. So I think with that question from our chairperson, that will be the last question. And first of all, I would like to thank you participants for all questions, and also thank you to speakers and participants for a vibrant question and answer session. Okay, we are almost about to finish the webinar session, but before we close, in 5 words, I would like each of the participants together with Arkitek Nur Zakia to tell the webinar what is the way forward from here they would like to see. First of all, I would like to ask Tuan Muhammad Fildaus, what's your 5 words?
Okay, my 5 word dah tentu rumah mampu milik, bukan mampu lihat.
Okay. Arkitek Mazlin?
Reach out to other stakeholders.
Dr. Asrul?
Come clean, let's sit down together.
Arkitek Nur Zakia?
Opportunities to all.
Thank you.
Opportunities.
Thank you very much, and thank you again. So we have come to the end of the session, and before we end, please accept our sincere apologies should there be any shortcomings. However, we hope that you have gained as much from the papers and from the question and answer session today as we have. So thank you for your participation and your being an awesome participants too, and have a pleasant afternoon. We hope to see you at our PAM online series, KATA KOTA episode 4, Housing and Amenity in Malaysia, where we have people from East Malaysia, people from all other region of the Semenanjung. So we'll have about 6 panels that is there from our PAM chapters talking about housing and amenity in Malaysia. So in tune with our 63rd Merdeka as well as 57 Malaysia Day. So we hope to see you, and please be reminded to book your digital seats soonest, and be safe, stay safe, think safety, and kita jaga kita. But before that, salam, can we have a group photo first?
Okay, ready, 3, 2, 1. Okay, alright, nice, thank you.
Alright.
Okay. Thank you very much semua. Salam sejahtera and see you all. Thank you team, and thank you all speakers. Be safe.
Thank you very much.
Kita jaga kita. Bye.